Hey y'all, I'm Miranda. I am your Reach the World traveler. It is so great to finally get to speak to you guys. So you get to know what my voice is and how I speak and my mannerisms. That way, when you're reading what I write, you can be like, oh, okay, so this is how she speaks. Like this is what she's saying. Like this is what the inflection is. And I'm like, when it kind of sounds weird, it's probably because like if I was saying it, it'd be really cool, but maybe not. All right, but just a quick refresher. I am Miranda. I am 23. I am living in Costa Rica on a Fulbright scholarship, meaning I am here with money from the State Department for 10 months to do research. And I am currently working at the Museo Nacional de Costa Rica, which is the National Museum of Costa Rica. I know y'all are Spanish class, so I'm hoping you can pick up on some of the words I'm going to throw out there. But yeah, so I'm currently here doing research on human remains from a pre-Columbian site, meaning like pre-Columbus, with a roughly like 1,000-year-old age on it. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm doing. But now to the actual premise of this video that I'm making for y'all. I am going to talk to you about the visa application process here in Costa Rica and all the stuff I've had to go through since I've gotten here and before. So, all right, let's start. All right, let's get started on the visa process itself and what it's kind of like and how many steps there are. So, first, I'm going to show you my visa checklist that I wrote out because I'm kind of a nerd and I like to write things out. So, here's mine in my book, but here's the one I was sent. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of information. And this is all for a very specific kind of visa. So before I get into that, I'm just going to start off with the fact that American citizens in general do not need a visa to visit Costa Rica. We are actually granted a 90-day tourist visa when we first get to the country, meaning you can be here legally for 90 days, and then as long as you leave the country for 3 days, you're allowed to reapply or re-enter the country. But for that case, like especially if you're someone who wants to be here for more than 90 days but not deal with the whole visa process, you're gonna want to have proof of like a proof of flight or proof of like basically proof saying that you're gonna leave the country and you're not just here to move here. So yeah, you get 90 days. The first time I came to Costa Rica, I was here on a study abroad program, and because there were like 50 students, it was really hard to get the visa process done in the 5 months we were here. So to make sure we had enough time, we actually took a trip to Nicaragua about 2 months in, so our visas restarted, and the program had more time to get us what we needed. But this time I'm not on a program, and I'm here alone, and I have to figure it out, with help from the embassy, of course. But it's basically all me, and getting all of these things. So, to start, I'm going to tell you about the things you need to do before you leave your own country. So before leaving the States. Sorry, I have notes in my little book. Like I said, I'm kind of a nerd, but I also forget as I talk. So I'm gonna read off of this, so sorry if I'm looking down at different points of the video. But yeah, so before you leave the country, you're gonna want to get a copy of your birth certificate, which most people have multiple copies of. Sorry, my speaking's sometimes a little weird. But yeah, so you're gonna want a copy of your birth certificate, and it's gonna have to be apostilled, meaning it's gonna have to be it's kind of like if you have to get something stamped for school, if you have to get it notarized. But this is at like a government, like at a federal level, not just like your local government. You can't just go to the bank or Joe down the street who's a notary. But yeah, so you need a copy of that that's apostilled, and then you need to get a certified criminal record. So for me in North Carolina, that meant I had to go to the local police station, get my fingerprints done, take them home, send them and an entire packet full of information to the State Bureau of Investigation for them to run a background check on me, and then for them to send me my background check, and then I could bring it. Oh, then I had to get it apostilled, which they did there, luckily. Some places you have to do it like on multiple different steps. And then I finally had that piece. So at that point, you have 2 certificates that are apostilled, your birth certificate and your criminal record. And then you're gonna need like a document stating like what you're doing if you're staying for so long. So for me, as a student or researcher, I had to provide my Fulbright grant document saying that I did indeed get this grant, this Fulbright scholarship, and I had to provide that to the embassy so they could see it and be like, okay, cool, yeah, you're legally allowed to be here. And then you also need to have 4 passport-sized photos. You know, points if they're actually the picture on your passport. Helps. Me, I didn't do that. I actually ended up getting my passport pictures taken here, like the little ones taken here, because I forgot my extra passport pictures back home. But I will say my pictures taken here are a lot cuter and a lot better, and I'm okay with that. But, yeah, so that's basically everything you need to have done. The copy of the birth certificate, though, that can be really aggravating, depending on your circumstances. So for me, I was actually born in Germany to 2 American parents, one who was stationed abroad in Landstuhl, Germany as an Air Force pilot, and then my mom who was with them. And so because of that, I was born abroad in Germany. And this was pre-2000, so they still gave you like multiple birth certificates. I was given a U.S. consular report of birth abroad, as in like my actual birth certificate, and then I was given a German birth certificate and a European Union birth certificate, which really doesn't hold any weight anymore, but it's still cool. But yeah, so I had 3 of them, and I could really only use one, and they only gave me 2 copies of it when I was born, and that's the U.S. consular report of birth abroad. So I had the one that's my actual copy, and then I had the actual one, and then I had 2 copies they gave us. And I've had to use one for enrolling in public school and the other for when I came here the first time. So I had to order it through the federal government and the U.S. Department of State, which meant instead of taking, like 2 or 3 weeks through your local government, I had to wait months. And I actually ended up coming to Costa Rica before it had been returned to me. My parents had to wait for it to come. And luckily they apostilled it at the State Department, at the Department of State, and sent it back for you. But yeah, my parents had to get it and then express ship it to Costa Rica, which is not cheap. So yeah, definitely be aware of that. But most people don't have to deal with that. Most people also have plenty of copies of their birth certificate. If something's gonna go wrong, it's gonna be me. It's gonna be I'm gonna be the person who's struggling last minute. So it's par for the course. So that's basically everything you really need. Oh, that's Billy. That's my dog in the video. Sorry, he's hearing noises, so he might be walking through. But yeah, so when you arrive, that's when the real work begins, because you need to have hi Billy. So when you get here, sorry, here, Bill, come here. This is Billy. This is my baby. And he's being really lovey, so he's gonna keep walking in front of the screen, and I apologize. But yeah, so when you arrive, you're gonna end up having to pay taxes because you're extending your stay. So you have to pay $200 American dollars to the Banco de Costa Rica, so BCR, and you have to pay in dollars. So that can be confusing, especially if you're trying to figure out how to get your colones back to dollars. I ended up paying with my debit card. I went to the bank, I stood in line, which takes forever. It's worse than lines in America for the bank. And awkwardly asked in broken Spanish if I could make a deposit to the specific bank account that I'm supposed to deposit in. And they were really helpful, really great. Got that done. You have to have a receipt. You have to have a receipt with your full name that states you did it. Along with that, you also have to pay 500 colones, so basically $1 for stamps. And you have to get a receipt of that as well. I got both of mine at the same time because they're into the same account number. And then you have to do proof of fingerprints, meaning you have to go and get yourself fingerprinted here in Costa Rica at the fingerprinting place. So there's a place in San Jose. It's actually right outside of Zapote, which is one of the little neighborhoods. and maybe a 20-minute walk from my place, which was great. And you actually have to set an appointment, and you go on that day at that time, and then you kind of wait for your appointment to be called, and then you go in. It's kind of like going to the DMV. You have an appointment, but it still takes forever. So you go in, and then you answer a bunch of questions like, what's your name, where do you live, do you have any distinguishing marks on your body, scars, tattoos, etc. So, you tell them about all your scars or all your tattoos, which I don't think y'all would be doing since you're under 18 for the most part, right? But I don't know. In North Carolina, with a parent, you can have one. It's off point, sorry. But yeah, so you do that, and then you get your fingerprints, and they give you a couple copies, and you take that, you put it with all of your other documents. And then you register. One of the things you have to do when you first get here, best idea, is registering with STEP, or the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Basically, it's through the consulate and the Department of State, and you go on, you say your name, like you tell them, not you say it, you make an account, you write in like your name, your birth date, and basically all your information, and then you write about, like, you write what your travel dates are and where you're going, and then that way you're being tracked, which kind of sounds weird, but that way they know where you are. So if there's some sort of emergency, say in Costa Rica, if there's an earthquake or a volcanic eruption or a hurricane or, I don't know, a crazy crocodile attack week or something, who knows, they can get in contact with you and warn you, for one, or make sure you're okay if it's after the fact. But that you have to provide a document stating that you did do it, so like a picture of your enrollment program and like the certification. And then for me as a student, I had to get a certification from the institution that I'm working with. So in this case, the Museo Nacional. I basically had to get a sheet of paper on letterhead that said, yes, she can work here. We are the museum. We have signed off on this. Woo! So I got it. I had to email the lady in charge of my department. I'm actually working through the Departamento de Protección Patrimonial, so the Patrimonial Protection Department, basically preserving history. But she had to get it signed from the person who ran the entire museum as a whole. So it's a couple hoops to jump through there. And then, let's see. Oh yes, you have to have you have to photocopy every single page of your passport. And I did that before I got here, and then I realized I had to add my most recent stamp, so I had to re-photocopy everything, which is hard because I don't have a photocopier in my apartment. So I'm actually getting that done when I go to the embassy on Wednesday. But yeah, and then you also have to write a letter on letterhead from your institution that you're with, so a school or the museum, in my case the museum. You have to write a letter of explanation explaining why you deserve to be, or why you deserve to request the special category for visas. AKA, like, why do you deserve to have a visa to stay here more than any other American kid who's here? So for my case, I had to write a letter that explained who I was, what my research goals were, and who I was working with and through. And then I had to explain basically what I was going to do for each month that I was here. Meaning, like, I had like a little like list, and so like, okay, for November this is what I'm doing. For November, December, like January, February, like all of that, all the way through September. And that's really hard to do when you don't know how long it's going to take you. So like for me, I'm going grave by grave. Like I have a grave, I open the box with the grave in it, like all of the remains from that one specific grave. And then I go through it and I take all the data and then I put it away. And then I go to grave number 2. I'm on grave 8, which has 14 people in it. So that one's taken a while. And my proposed letter said I'd be on grave like 25 at the end of January. So needless to say, the letter is as good as you can get it when you get here. But that does not mean you're gonna perfectly follow everything on it. But the goal is to definitely do so. So, and then basically at this point, you just have a couple more things to do through the consulate. And one of them would be signing una forma de afiliación, so like an affiliation form. And I actually have mine here, but I made a mistake and signed it before I went to the consulate, and you're not supposed to do that because they have to have it duly signed, meaning you have to sign it at the same time as a consular official, which just means more hoops to jump through, but that's bureaucracy. Yeah, so that's basically everything you need for your application. And luckily for me, the embassy is helping because I'm a Fulbright student, and I just give them all of my documents and they make all the appointments for me. And so they have my documents, and they're currently they actually currently just set me up an appointment with Migración, so immigration, and I go in on Wednesday. But basically everything's already approved. I'm just going in and I'm going to like re-answer all the questions, like who are you, what's your name, where do you live, do you have any distinguishing marks like scars or tattoos, basically everything you do for the fingerprints, but this time it's to get your cedula, or your like ID card. And that means I will officially have my visa in process because they still have to, print it and like get it sent to me, and I have to pay for it, which is another $98. So getting your visa is not necessarily a cheap process. And for part of another thing, because I'm here as a Fulbright student, I have to get a power of attorney. So I don't know any lawyers here, so I'm going through the embassy, of course, but that also costs extra money. So make sure if you are planning on going somewhere like this to budget it out, or if you're trying to get a visa through anywhere, like budget it so you have money put aside for it. Because I definitely had to go into my my food fund and my fun fund to like cover some of these expenses. But all in all, it's really not that bad, especially when you have the embassy to help. But they are the best. They gave me a whole packet when I got here that's like, I don't even know, super thick. But they are really helpful, and they help you get everything in order. So I highly recommend, for any visa process you go through, definitely work with the embassy and keep every single receipt for everything you do so you can prove it during the visa application process. But yeah, I think that's really it. Please let me know if y'all have any questions. I do want to apologize for my rambling. I tend to do that. It makes it hard for me to write y'all's little journals and stuff because I end up having to go through and like cut out so much because I write like I talk. But yeah, so thank y'all for listening. I hope the video helped. I hope it was informative, and I hope y'all's research on the other visa processes wasn't too hard. So have a good day. Bye-bye.